Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. Today we are looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 1. This is a 6-issue miniseries. This one's written by Dan Abnett with pencils by Lan Medina, Richard Friend on inks, Veronica Gandini colors, Simon Boland lettering, Nicholas Scott and Romulo Fajardo did the cover. I was a little hesitant because, well, sometimes these miniseries are garbage and not worth picking up. We start off with a guy talking to a kid and then his girlfriend, and there's some sort of problem going on with Mera, the so-called, and I'm quoting here, mermaid wife of Arthur Curry the Aquaman. I haven't been keeping up with Aquaman lately, not in years actually, because it's been kind of garbage for a long time, which is sad because I always thought Aquaman was cool when I was a kid, which a lot of people are going to give me crap for, I'm sure. But back in the 70s and 80s, he was kind of a cool character that did a lot of more like general adventuring underwater, that sort of thing. Apparently in Aquaman issue 30, Mera was injured, effectively exiled to the surface world because she was hurt by magic, which took away her ability to breathe. It also diminished her super strength and damaged her ability to use aquakinesis, which lets her use and create hard water, not like the atomic type, but the type that turns into shields and missiles and stuff. Well, she's on the pier fighting a guy named the Eel. Now the Eel is a criminal assassin that Aquaman has fought previously, and I think he's based out of Gotham. So he pops up occasionally in various DC books. He looks really cool in this one, because he's got almost an Olmec look to him. So he's beating the crap out of her because she can't control her powers like she used to, so it's not nearly as strong. And he tosses her into the water, and now that she can't breathe underwater, it makes her incredibly vulnerable. Well, he grabs her by the throat and she starts blacking out. She starts remembering her time meeting Arthur, who she was supposed to kill, and that she was a member of the Zebel, a lost colony of Atlantis, and it was where she was born. She was raised according to strict martial code, and they're a warrior kind of group, and she was trained martial arts and various fighting techniques on old shipwrecks by a taskmaster called Liron, and he taught her hand-to-hand how to use her powers. Since she was too reliant on her powers, well, some of that training kind of came back to her, so she uses it to manipulate the eel's water shield, which is made out of aquakinesis. Well, she binds to it with her limited power and swivels him around into the dock and smashes his head on a piece of wood. She drags him out of the water, and they call the Justice League. She kind of explains the situation and why she's on dry land. She doesn't have much of a choice. She also reveals that she is meant to be the Queen of Atlantis because Arthur doesn't want to be king anymore, basically. And the guy that's on the throne now is an imposter. His name is Wrath. And if they can depose him, she will be the queen. So she is technically queen in exile, which means that she has some diplomatic pull, so she meets with the State Department and gets them to not invade Atlantis because of the civil war that's going on down there, and trying to buy Aquaman some time to free his people. And while she convalesces, she is stuck on the surface world, which is really interesting because she's literally a fish out of water at that point. And she has to go back to and live at this lighthouse with a former Atlantean who lives on the surface now and is kind of integrated, and she's picking up the vernacular, that sort of thing. So it's cool. She's got a little friend. This was actually a really fun book. The cover art's a little deceptive because she looks a little more fey in this cover. She's got more of the elven features, but that art is not the interior art. So I have to say I really like the interior art. I thought the artist did a really good job. I have never heard of Lan Medina, but good job. I thought the art was pretty solid, and the book is really fun, and it features the DC's hot redhead that doesn't really get a lot of press outside of the Aquaman books. And I haven't heard anyone talk about the Aquaman books, but I might have to go pick them up. And the fact that it's Dan Abnett, I'm pretty confident whenever I pick up something by Abnett or Lanning that it's going to at least be passably good. I thought it was a shockingly good issue, and now I want to go pick up some Aquaman issues. But I'd recommend this. It seems like it's going to be a good character development book for the Queen of Atlantis. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's only a 6-part miniseries. It'll have kind of a self-contained story. So if you get a chance, please check this one out. In the meantime, that'll do it for this episode. Be sure and hit like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Thanks as always for listening, and we hope to see you on the next one. Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 2 of a 6-issue miniseries. As you can see by the cover, this one features Ocean Master. Okay, in this issue we start off with Tommy, hoping that his pseudo-father is going to teach him how to fish. He did just start calling him Dad, and the guy liked that, but he's gone now. He had something important to do. And then we cut over to Mera, and she's having a dream about drowning after smooching her husband. Yeah, pretty messed up. And she wakes up, and someone's outside, and it's Orm, the Ocean Master. Orm Marius is an incredibly dangerous man. He is considered a very high-level threat by the Justice League, but Mera is Queen of Atlantis, and her husband is Aquaman. So she goes out to talk to him, and they start discussing what's going on. Ocean Master decides that he should be a ruler, because that's usually what he does. And she's like, no, I am queen. And he's like, yeah, whatever. You're not even Atlantean, because she's Zeblian. And Zebels are a different tribe of underwater dwellers, like Atlanteans, just a different tribe. Atlantean is a specific tribe, as opposed to just being a species. Anyway, of course, she makes the mistake of putting her hand on him in a somewhat friendly gesture, and he smacks her and says, get your peasant hands off me. Goes downhill from there, because remember, she can't breathe underwater anymore, and where did he knock her? In the water. And she uses her aquakinesis to attack him. She's got him at her mercy, and then her power fades, because she's still recovering from whatever the current ruler of Atlantis named Wrath, the imposter on the throne, used his magics, and he wounded her somehow. So whatever he did to her is she's still recovering from, which is kind of the point of the miniseries. And she's fighting him, they're duking it out. This little idiot tries to get involved, and she doesn't really get anywhere. And there's a really cool sequence with, it's like a page and a half spread of the Ocean Master creating this giant wave, and it is actually a really awesome sequence. But just as he's about to do her in, someone shows up and stops him. But we don't know if it's gonna work or not, but he is temporarily thwarted by some moral confusion. Now I have to say, I really like this issue. There's a lot of talking, but there is a lot of action as well, and the talking is all world building, actual useful dialogue. The type of thing that people would actually be talking about when you have two nobles talking about who should be ruler of their country. So it actually has a little bit more mature tone to it. It's not just useless blather like you usually get. So this was written by Dan Abnett, who is a very good writer, and pencils by Lan Medina, who did a great job, I thought. Norm Rapmund on inks, very good job. Colors by Veronica Gandy, very good job. Simon Boland letters, very good job. Covers really good. Overall, a great book. If you're an Aquaman fan, this is really, really a good supplemental book. It really defines Mera more. We don't really have a lot to work with her in Aquaman's lore. She's just kind of his wife. She's kind of a developed character. If you go back to like the 70s when they were in adventure comics, then yeah, she was more developed then, but they haven't done a lot with her in the last 15-20 years. So this was actually a really good addition to the lore of Atlantis, and I think it's actually really well done. This issue, I think, was at least as good, if not even slightly better than the first issue. So I recommend checking it out if you like Aquaman or any kind of like King Arthur or Game of Thrones kind of stuff. It definitely has that sort of feel to it. Maybe not quite as in-depth, but it definitely has a theme of nobility and learning your place in the world, that sort of thing. So it was a fun book. I recommend it, and I thought the art was good, so it was a pretty solid read. So if you get a chance, check it out. But that'll do it for me. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. Be sure and hit like and subscribe, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 3. This is part of the 6-issue miniseries from 2018, printed by DC Comics. Now, of course, Mera is Aquaman's wife, and we have a little bit of a flashback here from when she was living in Zebel, her homeland, and how she more or less was trained by this guy, Laron, to be royalty and indoctrinated with all the beliefs of moral superiority majority of the higher class. So that kind of leads into where we left off last issue with her fighting Orm, the Ocean Master. And Ocean Master has her in a very precarious situation, but thankfully Aaron Shaw, his girlfriend, shows up with her son Tommy. And she sort of forwards the plot by telling them to work together to save Atlantis once she gets briefed on the situation. Now, of course, Orm and Mera have a very storied history because she is married to his archenemy, Aquaman, but he agrees for Aaron's sake, and he says that he will come back for them. So their idea is to go down and meet up with one of the rebel factions, which is actually King Nereus, a man she was supposed to marry before she met Arthur. See, her job originally was to assassinate Arthur, but she fell in love with him and decided to marry him instead of this Nereus guy, and Nereus is kind of a jerk. But the introductions don't go so well. Orm gets a little carried away during a fight, and we're left with a bad situation leading into next issue. Now, actually, this issue was really good. We learn a lot about Mera's past, and it leads into what the situation is right now. And it was a lot of fun. They're really fleshing out Mera more than they did previously, and I always thought she had enough character background, but they're really adding a little bit more in here and kind of reviewing it with expansions, which is fun. So this is written by Dan Abnett with Lan Medina on pencils, Norm Rapmund on inks, Veronica Gandini colors, Simon Bullard letters, Nicholas Scott and Romulo Fajardo Jr. did the cover, Andrea Shea assistant editor, Alex Antone editor, Brian Cunningham group editor. And I thought everybody did a really good job. The cover makes Mera's face look a little anime-ish, but otherwise it's a cool cover. I really like that. The interior art is good. It's a very solid book all around. Great story, great art. Honestly, I really liked it. So I'm really liking this miniseries. It's really holding its own quite well, and it's a very interesting story, and it does kind of take place during part of a storyline that I'm not familiar with, but I will be catching up on at some point, and that is Aquaman has apparently lost the throne to this other guy who is some sort of upstart. Yeah, this tyrant's name is Coram Wrath, and he seized the throne in Atlantis, and while Orm has a claim to the throne, obviously he doesn't want Aquaman getting it, but they probably are going to have to work together at least a little bit on this front. So this is tied into those events in the regular Aquaman book, and I think that's actually pretty compelling, but it does kind of hurt the miniseries a little bit because if you don't know what's going on in the regular Aquaman book, you're probably going to be a little bit lost on this, but I don't think it's going to be that much of an effect on the overall story they're working with here. This is just sort of tied into the storyline, but it stands off on its own pretty well as an independent story. So I'm going to recommend it. So far, this miniseries has been great. I'm really looking forward to reading issue 4, and I'll have that review up as soon as I can. But in the meantime, this is a recommend, and that'll do it for me. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 4. This is part of a 6-issue miniseries written by Dan Abnett with pencils by Lan Medina, Norm Rapmund on inks, Veronica Gandini colors, Simon Bullard lettering, Nicholas Scott and Romulo Fajardo Jr. on cover, Andrea Shea assistant editor, Alex Antone editor, Brian Cunningham group editor. Now, because they violated protocol going down to Zebel, Orm and Mera have to fight a giant octopus. It's actually a really cool scene. Orm is not much of a team player, but they managed to get an audience with King Nereus, and he still holds a massive grudge against her, and he does seem to be very impetuous and bullheaded, and he seems to have a lot of anger management issues as well, but it seems like they are making some headway, and Mera goes down to meet with Lamia, who is her grandmother, but Lamia has her own influence. She was never queen, but she was the grandfather's consort of Mera, which is like technically her grandmother, but it's a very patriarchal society, so they didn't have a queen per se. Nereus is trying to manipulate Orm during all this, and things aren't going too well topside either, up in the air world as they call it, but there are machinations afoot down below, and it looks like Mera's grandmother may not actually be quite the friendly old lady she seems to be, because her machinations seem to align more with Nereus. books. So all in all, it was actually a really good issue. It's not much of an action issue. There is some fighting, like the fight with the giant octopus is pretty cool, but it is building up a lot of political intrigue, and we are getting to see a little bit of the backstory with Mera and her relations with her own people, and kind of how she betrayed them, and how King Nereus has never really forgotten that. So it's a great issue. It really advances the plot quite a bit. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm really liking this miniseries. It shows what a good character Mera really is, and how much character development has gone into her. And Dan Abnett is a fantastic writer, so I highly recommend checking this out. First 4 issues have been great. I'm looking forward to reading issue 5, which is always a good sign. I didn't feel cheated for my $4 either, which is another good sign. So I'm going to recommend it, but that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 5 of a 6-issue miniseries. This is written by Dan Abnett with pencils by Lan Medina, Norm Rapmund, inker, Veronica Gandini, colorist, Simon Bollard, letterer, Nicola Scott and Romulo Fajardo Jr. on cover, Andrea Shea, assistant editor, Alex Antone, editor, Brian Cunningham, group editor. Of course, Ocean Master was created by Bob Haney. Now the cover is very dynamic, but it's a little misleading, but not really. It seems there are machinations afoot in Zebel, where Ocean Master and Mera are trying to get the Zebel army to work with them to help retake Atlantis. Of course, Zebel is concerned about the renegade king that has taken over Atlantis, but Wrath's tyranny is just an opportunity for King Nereus to cement his power base and the security of Zebel, which is a renegade kingdom of its own. Last issue, Tula got a little kidnapped, and it turns out that Nereus had her kidnapped. They want to put Orm in charge. So while it looks like Ocean Master may actually be in charge of Atlantis if this goes through, but Mera can't let that happen. So she does what she only could do, and we're left with a cliffhanger ending. Honestly, this was a really good book. You get a little bit of courtroom theatrics from the nobles and the king and all that. So that was kind of neat. It's a little simplistic, but it works really well. It was a fun read. It was a good standalone issue. It was a great part of the series, and it's really leading up to the conclusion issue, and I'm really excited to read it. This has been a really fun book. The art is great. The covers are dynamic. Everything about the book really comes together. I really recommend checking this out if you like Aquaman or Mera. So it was a good time. I definitely would recommend this book. It really comes together as a really solid miniseries. Dan Abnett and Len Medina are really knocking it out of the park on this one. The whole creative team did a good job. Colors are real vibrant. You get some really good imagery, and I'm excited to see how this plays out, and then jump into the Aquaman book and get caught up with that. I've got a big stack of those sitting here that just came in today, but in the meantime, this is a definite recommend. The single issue should be pretty cheap to find, and it'll be in trade paperback probably for about 15 or 16 bucks. So far, I would definitely recommend that. We'll look at issue 6 to see if it rounds out as well as the first 5 issues that have. But until then, if you get a chance to pick this one up, definitely do it. But that's just my take. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. And we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 6. This is the final installment of the mini-series. It was written by Dan Abnett with pencils by Lan Medina. Inker was Norm Rapmund. Veronica Gandini was the colorist. Simon Bollard letterer. Nicola Scott and Romulo Fajardo Jr. did the cover. Andrea Shea, assistant editor. Alex Antone, editor. Brian Cunningham, group editor. Now, if you're going to read the Aquaman Civil War series, the entire story arc is kind of relevant to this because it does tie in heavily. In this issue, you need to read before you read Aquaman 38 if you're going to read the series. Otherwise, it kind of will spoil this issue for you. And the series will make much more sense, apparently, with this. This being the final issue, I was trying to be a little extra critical of it. The cover is really cool, but that scene does not happen in this issue. But I still like the cover quite a bit. The coloring is really, really good in this issue. You see, like, skin in tone and depth, and I think it really makes the issue much more dramatic because there is a massive combat scene in this where Mera has to do trial by combat, and she has to face down her enemies, both political and rivals for the throne. This was a great miniseries. Now, I highly recommend checking it out if you plan on getting caught up on Aquaman, because this really does tie in. Mera's back to full health. Her aqua kinetics are up and running by the end of the issue, so she's gone quite a ways over the course of the miniseries, and she's back on top, ready to go reclaim her throne. And all around, this was a fun issue and a fun miniseries, so I would definitely recommend this issue. As a standalone, it will kind of catch you up a little bit, and there's a lot of action to really get you going, but as part of a miniseries, it really is a good end cap. So I was real excited by that. I was real satisfied. I'm really looking forward to getting caught up on Aquaman now. So definitely check this out if you get a chance. This was a fun miniseries. Even if you pick it up in trade paperback, I'd be willing to bet you'll be able to find these issues in back issue bins really cheap, probably in bargain bins, but they're worth the cover price. I had a great time reading this miniseries, and I was real excited to recommend it. But that's just my take on it. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.